welcome to another edition of Sticks-n-Stones. I'm your host, Brent Elrod. I think I have two offerings today that are just going to culminate in a stupendous pairing that you are not going to want to miss a moment of. You know, you see, it's everything on the internet now. It's like, you don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss this. Well, you don't want to miss this. I am going to be pairing Greenspot Irish Whiskey. For those of you on live stream, Greenspot Irish Whiskey with a Diesel Whiskey Row Sherry Cask. I believe there is a whole lot more to the title of that, like Rabbit Hole Sherry. But anyway, Whiskey Row Sherry Cask. That's going to be the stick for today. Now, Greenspot is, it kind of has its histories in Jameson's line, I guess you'd say. It goes back a century or more. But it is all, they're all kind of conglomerated together, and that includes another spirit that has been burning up the airwaves, and that is Redbreast. And I definitely am going to be getting some of that to pair soon. I've actually become a very large fan, not, you know, I've lost a lot of weight, but I am a very large fan of Irish whiskeys. I just really like what they have going on. They're very smooth. They have a really nice sweetness to them, but they still do have, you know, they are whiskey. It's not infused or anything like that, but there are just a lot of different palate profiles and the different, even though these are the most popular whiskeys are pretty much from Jameson's hierarchy. Then you do also have Bushmills out there, which is, I don't know, I think they started distilling whiskey like right around the time Christ was born. They've been at it for, I don't know, 100,000 years or something. Anyway, sorry, lost my place. I'm running in a lot of different directions today. I think we will find, if we go through today, that the the Greenspot is going to have some nice apple notes, some vanilla, maybe a little toasted oak, and I think we're going to be getting from the Whiskey Row Sherry Cask some more fruits, probably not the typical cigar with, you know, a large amount of like leather and cedar and those kinds of things. And I think that the sherry cask aging that these leaves go through is going to definitely give a nice kind of fruity undertone to the cigar that's going to marry well with the spirit. So see, that's how I kind of do all these things. And most of that was not from my notes. I just kind of like put it all together as I was talking. I knew what I needed to say. And I think if you try these, you're going to sip on the Greenspot Irish Whiskey and puff on that Diesel Whiskey Row Sherry Cask cigar, and you are just going to find that there are some great smoky notes of sweet sherry finish and a little bit of leather, cedar, a lot of fruitiness, kind of some sweetness in there. It's really going to make a perfect harmony. Now, the Greenspot whiskey, it is a non-age statement, but part of the history of the spots are that the spots originally amounted to the age. So you had the green, which was like 10-year. You had the yellow, and I think there was another spot in there somewhere, maybe a red. Anyway, but the way it is done now on the Greenspot is it is a non-age statement whiskey. However, it is assumed to be somewhere in the 7 to 10 year range. So it is 40% alcohol by volume. it is aged in ex-bourbon and ex-sherry casks. So that should create a really nice tie-in to the Whiskey Row sherry cask cigar, which is one reason I kind of put these two together. The distillery is Middleton. Again, we know them from Jameson, Redbreast, all that fame. So let's go ahead, dive right on in. Glass, I like that sound. Glass us up some of this. Hey, the Irish do know how to make a cork pop. It's another lovely sound in the spirit world right there. All right, now, as those of you on live stream can see, this is just a beautiful golden color. It's not, it is a little light, but it still does kind of hold the closer to golden color. I know I've done some spirits here in the recent past that they have been a real light golden, especially some of the Japanese whiskeys. But this does hold just a little bit darker gold hint to it. So let's go ahead and nose it. Now, as I said earlier, this is 40% alcohol by volume, so 80 proof. So there's not a huge amount of like ethanol in the nose. There is a little bit of alcohol to it, but not like you would find in some higher proofs. This does really remind you of kind of the older versions of Jameson. It's got some deep, rich notes that kind of draw you in for more study. I pick up like some notes of hay and maybe honey. I get just bushels of orchard fruit, like apples and maybe even some pears in there. And there is strawberries and cherries. There may be a sprinkling of nuts in there. And then you do pick up a little bit of the sherry from the sherry cask aging. And also maybe just kind of a hint of chocolate. As I said, there's a lot going on in the nose. I mean, this is pretty complex. Probably one of the most complex spirits I've ever nosed on. So I'll let you go where you will with that. On the palate, folks, this is just some 80 proof deliciousness. I get like lemons, a little bit of zing like that, just a little bit of tart on your tongue, like a moist cake, a conglomeration of like melons and cream. The ex-bourbon and sherry cask influences also bring in some cereal notes blended with some other like sweet notes, and that really does create a complex experience on your palate. There's no like real coating. It's very smooth and easy drinking, and it has a really great mouthfeel on it. It is just rich and chewy, and I think I forgot to show you the legs on it. It may just be a little thin. Not a lot though. I mean, it's got pretty decent legs to it. So, now the finish. Another drink. The finish is short to medium length. It does have just some really big, robust fruit notes in it with some toasted oak and a little bit of malt. There's some florally notes in there, along with some baking spices and some more fresh apples, kind of reminiscent of and the spices are like baking spices, not like pepper. So it's really like spiced apples or an apple cobbler without the crusty stuff on it. I guess you could say with the maltiness, maybe and everybody picks up different things. What I get off of a spirit may not be, or a stick may not be the same thing that you get. So don't think that, oh, I don't taste that, or I don't smell that. Everybody's palate and olfactory is a little different. Now, let's move on to the Diesel Whiskey Row. And I may end up looking down a lot, but the camera is coming on my screen right down here, and I'm just kind of watching to make sure I try to keep my eyes up enough so that I'm not down like this all the time. You don't want to be seeing that. Well, I mean, you might want to be seeing that. I don't know. This is a nice hat. This is a very nice hat. It's a Stetson. No self-respecting Texan is going to wander around with something else on. So, all right, back to the Whiskey Row. This is a Nicaraguan stick. It is from the Tabacalera A.J. Fernandez Cigars de Nicaragua, U.S.A. The filler is a Nicaraguan Habano. The binder is a Brazilian Arapiraca. I think I had one of those last week. And the wrapper is a Connecticut Broadleaf from right here in the U.S.A. This particular Vitola is the, I think they call it the Gigante. This is a 6x58 on the ring gauge. It's basically like Toro size, 6x60. But everybody wants to be different. The banding on it is beautiful. I'll get in here and see if you can, there's a little glare on it. But yeah, Rabbit Hole, they kind of did this in conglomeration with Rabbit Hole Distillery, which I believe is a little bit here northwest of me in North Texas. Visually, it is a beautiful stick. The banding, I think, is just beautiful on it. It's got nice colors to it. It's quite a bit of banding. There's a large foot band along with a large center band. I'm going to have to take these off because I can't really see much of the stick for that. All right. Now, this is a medium dark brown wrapper. The seams they're visible, minimally visible, but very nice and tight. There is a very minimal amount of veining, a very large double cap. Just making sure, my eyes, I have to like really focus in to see if I can see 2 or 3, and it's really kind of hard to tell. I think it's a double cap. It could be a triple. It's just all in where exactly those lines are. It is a hair rough up around the cap. I do detect a little bit of tooth up and down the shaft. No. It does have a nice firm feel to it with just a little bit of give. Now on the nose. We'll say that you're getting just a slight amount of alcohol aroma, distillerant, not rubbing alcohol, from the sherry cask aging, which also lends in a little bit of sweetness to it. And I pick up some cedar and some leather, and maybe just kind of a hint of earthiness. All right, let's go ahead and give it a cut and cold draw. Y'all, I don't know if any of you are still around from like a long time ago when I first started doing this. It's probably my first season. I was playing with this off screen. I would open it, and then I would close it, and I closed it on my finger. I sliced a nice divot out of my finger. Yeah, don't do that. So I'm holding my finger against my blue jeans to keep from bleeding all over everything while I'm trying to talk on camera like nothing's wrong. So, yeah, don't do that. All right, I'm very OCD about how I cut these. It has to be nice and perfect. I want it to look great. And that one wasn't exactly the way I wanted it. So we're gonna try to, there we go, that's better. Not the best cut I've ever done, but it is pretty good. The first one was very narrow. So, all right, anyway, cold draw. It's an exceptionally easy cold draw with that cut I did. I don't know if it's the cut or if it's the cigar itself, but it's almost like drawing through a straw. I get raisins, maybe a little bit of orange in there, kind of some sweet cream. There is sherry in there, but it's not as forward as it was in the nose. But it's kind of more blended together with the other flavors as opposed to being that, front forward. All right. Rocky Patel Envoy, 5 torch. Hey, if I believe you're gonna do it right. Pull it up where you ought to see it. As you can see, I'm holding that a pretty good distance away from the end of the cigar and just kind of toasting it up. And once I had the foot toasted, then I brought it down closer to the base of the flame and just held it a little away and drew the flame into the stick. You don't want to bury the cigar into the flame. You'll wind up, for lack of a better term, overcooking it, and it can just kind of mess up the burn. You don't want to do that. If you're gonna spend $10 on a stick, you want it to burn right. And you can always get the flame closer, but once you overdo it, you can't go back and change it. So it's better to start out and work in than go in and figure out you screwed it all up. Trying to see how that's coming out on camera. And you should be able to tell there is a tremendous amount of smoke coming off of this stick. Howdy, I see the comment. I have no idea how I can reply to it. I actually have my soundboard sitting on top of my keyboard. So, got a lot of stuff going on out here. And I tell you what, I love this stick already. This is another one, like last week's, that it is courtesy of my military buddy, my combat veteran. We were deployed together, buddy Roy Farrell and Tracy. They found these at Talladega, just kind of hanging around, waiting on the race to start or whatever. I always think of Jeff Dunham. He had, the ventriloquist comedian. He had, one of his dummies up there, and it's like, they're making a left turn. They're making another left turn. It's funny. Anyway, let's get back to business. This is a really good cigar. It puts out a copious amount of smoke. I get raisins, or maybe something kind of like a raisin pudding, with just a little bit of sweetness added into it. There is some pepper. There is a really nice aged wood, like an old library from 1800s, or the really old churches in New York City that the wood has been there for 300 years. that kind of, rich, robust, aged wood. I love that. Or an old bar. Some of those too. I went to a bar in Manhattan many years ago when I was stationed up there in the Navy, and it was the bar that a lot of the revolutionaries planned all of their shenanigans there in New York City at. So there's a plaque on the corner outside. It's been there like 350 years. Like, that's a lot of beer or whiskey or whatever they drank back then. All right, let's try them together. Man, that is just some really great, like sweet notes all blending together. You've got the orchard fruits like the apples, maybe little pears, mixed with the oranges, raisins, sweet cream, and just enough pepper and spice to kind of underpin the whole thing. I mean, it's really coming together as a great smoke, and we are that far in. We're like a dollar stack of quarters. So I'm watching the smoke production on the camera, because when I will puff on a cigar and I will look, I'll be like, that's a lot of smoke coming off this cigar. But then you look on the camera and not all of it shows up. It's kind of like those ghost hunting shows. You watch those and they'll be like, "Ooh," and you're like, I didn't see nothing. But they saw it. So look at that. The smoke is still hanging in the glass. Man, that is awesome. I tell you what, that Greenspot, that's a pretty good spirit right there. This kind of spirit. I love the ghost hunting shows. There was one, I can't remember the name of it now. There's so many of them out there anymore. But they were, what was the name of it's like Idlewild or something like that. It was an old like plantation home down in Louisiana somewhere. And they were all outside. They had their ghost coach or whatever they called it, their RV that they had all their, that was their command center. And the way the story went, the rest of them were like outside taking a snack break or whatever, and one of them was in there and he saw something on one of the cameras, and it could be creative editing. I'm not saying all this, I'm sure all the, anyway, but there was, clear as day, probably a half to 3/4 transparent image. You could tell it was a woman in like a long, it kind of looked like maybe a nightgown or one of those old, from the 1800s, the women wore the long dresses. And it just passed from one side of the kitchen through the other, and the camera was looking through this big wide doorway that was probably 10 or 12 feet wide. And the thing is it wasn't walking. It just did one of these. I was like, wow. If that was real, that's a great catch, because you don't see that kind of stuff. Most of them, they talk about all this great evidence they got, and you're like, whatever. It's kind of like the Bigfoot show. They go out looking for Bigfoot, and they never find him. Maybe Bigfoot has Comcast or whatever, and he knows that they're out there, and he's like, no, I ain't going in that part of the woods this weekend. We'll go over to this place. It's kind of like, when you find out that there's something big happening at one place, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna stay away from that because there's gonna be way too many people there. Bigfoot's probably doing the same thing. He probably got his iPhone out going, yeah, I'm not going over there. All right. Well, for those of you on the podcast part, the audio only, I'm going to put you all on pause while I go ahead and burn this down to the halfway mark. For those of you on live stream, just hold tight. Howdy, folks. I am back here at the half. As I was talking to the live stream folks, the spirit has, or I'm just getting all kinds of messed up. The stick has brought in some like molasses, maybe a little bit of vanilla, maybe even some slight notes of chocolate in there as well. It's still a really, really good match for this Greenspot. This is an excellent spirit. First time I've tried it. It is wonderful. It is fruity. It's sweet forward without being too sweet. And it retains just enough spice, you know, to keep you coming back. I am very pleased thus far with this pairing. And there has been some waviness. I had to touch up a little bit a time or two. Could have been the wonky cut that I gave it when I was trying to talk about how specific I wanted to be about my cuts, and then I screwed it up. But the cigar itself is really performing very well, and I love the palate. I love the smoke production. I love the draw on it. It is a short to medium finish, and probably on the shorter side. Same with the spirit. It doesn't hang in very long, but it just keeps you coming back for more. So I am going to go ahead and burn this down the rest of the way, and I will come back and give you my final thoughts. Howdy, folks. I am back. This was a really, really enjoyable experience. I loved the Greenspot Irish whiskey with its fruitiness and its gentle, or its sweet, gentle profile. It blended very well with the diesel sherry cask. In the last half, you know, right around the halfway mark, I thought I had a little bit of chocolate coming in there too. Well, it fell away, and it got a little more robust with some earthiness and some notes of cedar and oak kind of moving forward. I would give the Greenspot a 94 Whiskey Stones. I really thought it was that good out of 100 Whiskey Stones. I was very impressed with it. I'd give the stick 88 out of 100. It is a really good cigar, and it is definitely worth the smoke. They paired very well together, and I think you could probably pair these with other matchings very easily. And this was an excellent afternoon, an excellent way to spend an afternoon, because I am now just about as ready as I could be, I guess, for starting the new week. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? No regrets, right? All right. I hope you have enjoyed this episode as much as I have enjoyed bringing it to you. Please let me know your thoughts, what you think about this episode or the show in general. Leave me comments. Please hit the like, subscribe, share buttons. That way you not only know when I drop new content, but you're spreading the word amongst all your friends. That's how we grow. That is the easiest way for us to grow. And I love growth. I'll just leave that right there. I've got some great pairings, matchups coming up. If you happen to have a stick or a spirit or a pairing that you would like to see, reach out to me on any of the social medias, comment on this episode, whatever you'd like. You can pretty much find me anywhere. I am on Amazon, including the shopping site. You can actually search for the show, Sticks-n-Stonez, Stonez, in the search bar of the Amazon shopping app, and you will find the show. And it is free. You don't even have to pay for it. Isn't that awesome? So you can see, all the different, you can listen to all the different episodes on your Amazon Music platform. Couldn't think of the word there. Speaking of platforms, I am on Pandora, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, Spreaker, YouTube, and wherever you happen to be watching and or listening today. So be sure to tune in. I'm usually doing this every Sunday afternoon. The time may kind of vary depending on what's going on, but I always try to make time for you folks. Be sure to go to our website, sticksandstones.com, all one word, all small letters, STICKSNSTONEZ.com. There you can find on the front page, you can find links to a bunch of our affiliates. Keeper's Heart Whiskey, love those folks. Total Wine, Cigars International, Carhartt, Fanatics. I have all kinds of affiliates that I am, what's the word? Cropping. Guess that's it. And you can also find links to prior episodes, blog posts. I really need to get a blog post made. I hadn't made one in, a couple of weeks, I think. So, but I try to have something on the blog post for everybody. I've done the Boston Tea Party, I've done spirits, I've done sports, I've done cigars. You can find a little something there that you might find entertaining, no matter what you're looking for. So, until we get to be together again, keep your sticks dry, your stones cold, and have a great day.